No. No.
Alright, so for those of you just tuning in, I'm about to spectate a 3v3 on Arabia between 6 inexperienced players. Throughout this match, guys, I'm going to be watching them and giving them live advice to try and help improve their overall quality of play. I'll also be talking about very key concepts, core concepts in Age of Empires 2, so that everybody can learn a little bit of something, hopefully from watching this particular match. Okay, good. It looks like everything worked out accordingly. So yeah, I've got spies right now, and the reason I'm not using the in-game spectator function is it's definitely a little buggy and sometimes causes some out-of-sync errors. So we try to avoid that from time to time. This is of course part of my Resonance Teaches Rookie Players series, and don't forget to check out the rest of those on YouTube. I've got them all in a neat little playlist as well. Talk about a lot of core concepts. So basically the first thing you should do, guys, when you start the game is you take your 3 villagers, right, and you want to build 2 houses with them, just like Border Dude Man has done right here. Perfect. And then what you want to do is you want to use your scout to go find your sheep while those 2 houses are being built, and you want to lure the sheep under your town center, and then just start harvesting from them. Now the thing is that okay, so basically you only want to you want to split the 2 villagers between the 2 houses. I guess that's important for me to talk about. And what you want to do is you want to put 2 villagers on one house and 1 villager in the other house. And the reason that you're going to do this is because with 2 villagers on one house, it'll finish. That's the minimum amount of villagers that it'll take to finish just in time, so that your town center basically isn't idle for any period of time. You don't really get housed for too long. It's the most efficient way to do it. And then yeah, you want to put all your villagers on sheep. And the reason that you want to put your first villagers on food right off the bat instead of like wood, for example, is because the early game is all about starting your economic foundation, guys. It's all about setting yourself up. And what you want to do is you're going to need a lot of villagers, right? You're going to need a strong eco before you can get a strong military. So you're going to need some food first, because villagers cost food. There's no point in stockpiling on wood at the start of the game, obviously, because, well, you know, your goal is to get more villagers out, and through more villagers, once you get enough villagers on sheep, 6 to be exact, you'll have a constant steady food income so that you'll be able to produce villagers non-stop. With 6 villagers on sheep, you will constantly be getting 50 food every single time you need to create a villager, which is just what you want. And then after you get 6 on sheep, as we've seen Eagle has done right here, what you want to do is you want to build your lumber camp next. Build it right up close to the tree line, right like this. This is perfect, as Eagle has done here. And then you want to put either 3 or 4 villagers in the lumber camp. That depends on what strategy you're going for. This can vary. 3 is fine, 4 is fine too. Obviously, having 4 villagers in the lumber camp would mean that whatever strategy you're going for requires you to have a little bit of extra wood at the beginning of the game. So, reasons that you would want 4 on wood would include things like you were going for Age Rush, which is a type of strategy which involves you getting down a barracks rather early, building a barracks, and then working on some militia in the Dark Age, and then using those to harass your opponent's economy. So 3 or 4 villagers on wood. Then after that, what you want to do is you probably want to build another house pretty soon, and then start working on your wild boar. You're going to want to shoot that wild boar twice, just as Eagle has done. Run it directly underneath your town center. Perfect boar lure here from Eagle. Very, very good to see. And yeah, you want to start harvesting from that. Notice how some of the players here, Eagle definitely is harvesting from only 1 sheep at a time. This is important because if you're harvesting from more than tons of sheep at once, like Pete is doing right now, you know, wild animals do decay over time. They lose a little bit of food, as you can see. This sheep is actually losing food despite no one is gathering from it. So it's just all about being efficient, guys, minimizing your losses, and in this case, Eagle is being extremely efficient. Now, if you're new at Aoe2, it is totally fine. I cannot stress this enough to not worry about harvesting from several sheep at once. That's just one of those more advanced mechanics that you know, when you're trying to iron out the kinks in your play, that can make a big difference, but it's not a huge game changer, definitely. So once you've got, you know, your extra house down, you know, every player should have 3 houses by this point. They've got their boar down. Where your next villagers go? The way I like to look at it, guys, is when you hunt a boar, every time I hunt a boar, I use that as a reminder to me to go build another Dark Age building. So I hunt this boar, get it underneath my town center, and then I'm going to go build my mill. This is important. I'm going to go build my mill. You know, I'm going to send some new villagers onto food. You can put them on the sheep, you can put them on the bushes, whatever works for you, but I'd recommend getting the sheep done first, especially because the sheep do decay. So what Pete could be doing is he could have a lot less villagers on his forage bushes and a lot more on his sheep. The reason being is because, yeah, these sheep are decaying right now, and that's just food that's lost, whereas berries don't actually decay. And then as your first boar is just about to completely run out of food, what you want to do is you want to time your second boar lure, and this just takes practice, guys, so that it gets underneath your town center just as the first boar finishes. And this can be pretty hard to do, because it depends on the distance that the second boar is from your town center, but usually when your first boar is at 150 food remaining on the carcass, then that's when you want to get the second boar in on there. Now the thing is the reason that you're luring the boar to underneath your town center rather than just harvesting from wherever it was normally, like right over here. Why? Because if you harvest from under your TC, your villagers don't have to walk so far to go drop off that food. And every little bit counts, guys, when you're trying to improve your play in Age of Empires 2. It's all about being really efficient, so that's what it boils down to here. Now, I'd really recommend getting loom before you hunt your boar, so like right before you get your first boar, I'd recommend getting loom if you're new to the game, or if there's any semblance of lag. Because here's the thing, is while pros will opt to not get loom, they'll opt to delay it until maybe like the very end of the Dark Age, as long as they can afford to, really. Because while your town center is researching loom, it's not creating a villager, right? Loom actually takes like just as long to research as it does to create a villager, and during that time you could have had an extra villager, and an extra villager can really add up over time, so pros will opt to delay loom for as long as they can afford to, but they'll still get it because it's a really good technology, and you don't want your villagers to be super weak. They'll just be easily killed by enemy military units, which is bad. But I'd recommend getting loom in most online matches anyway, before you hunt your boar, because it's more important that you don't lose the villager to the boar rather than just being behind one villager, because losing a villager and not having loom is just awful. So pros are, like they're usually in a one-on-one match, so there's a lot less lag, and they just have really good micro, so it's very rare that they will ever lose a villager to a boar, but as you guys are learning Aoe2, I really, really recommend that you do not take that kind of risk. It is not worth it. Not worth it. See, because right now, like Crumblehead, he's hunting from his boar, right? But look how far his villagers have to walk. It's going to take them maybe like 3 years or something to walk from this point to this point. And it's just not really worth it. Now, let's say I want everybody in this match, and just in general, to always be looking at the scores. You press F4 as the default hotkey, or you click this little nifty flag icon here, statistics. Because like, look at this. Eagle is in the lead. Why is Eagle in the lead? Why is Amazon, I guess, behind so much? And there's a number of factors, but most importantly, we can safely assume at this point that Eagle just has more villagers than everybody else here. When you look at the scores, and your score is falling behind by a relatively significant margin, you can assume that you're just behind in population. That's usually the thing, although scores obviously can be very complicated, but the most important thing, guys, to improving your early game is to just keep your villager production rolling non-stop. What you want to do is you want to keep producing villagers. Your town center should always be creating a villager or researching technology. And if you want to get better at the game, if you can master that, you can master anything, basically. Like, that's the most important thing. If you can keep your town center all the time creating stuff, hello P-Doggy, by the way, then you'll be golden. You'll be outperforming your peers non-stop. If you're playing with your friends casually and you're outproducing them in vills, you just win. You flat out win. Because, yeah, what you want to do, guys, is you want to get this goal of 100+ villagers as fast as possible. As fast as possible. And all that time where your town center is just not building anything is just wasted space, It's wasted time, so definitely got to keep that in mind. Here's another mistake. Let's say your Dark Age just sucks, and you have no idea why your Dark Age sucks. There's a number of possible problems, one of them is that your town center is idle all the time, and the other possible one, perhaps, is that your eco is not balanced correctly. Now, we look at someone like Pete right now, and Pete has so many villagers on gold, although, he's in the feudal age right now, so it's okay, but, even if he's going archers, he might not need this many vills on gold. That might be a little excessive, but I guess that's probably fine. But just one thing to keep in mind, though, I don't think anyone's making a big deal out of it. I guess Crumblehead is a better example. Pete's fine. But these 3 vills on gold right now in the Dark Age, they don't need to be on gold. You really don't need gold until you hit the feudal age. And stockpiling on gold in the before the feudal age isn't going to make a difference at all. you want to get to the feudal age relatively quickly when you're, you know, playing Age of Empires 2, because when you think of what you have in the Dark Age, you've got militia. Militia suck in combat. They're actually weaker than like a villager with loom, which is not the kind of thing that you want. So you want to get out of the Dark Age. You want to get into some stronger military units so you can actually make something happen. The Dark Age is just about setting an economic foundation for the rest of the game. So these 3 vills here that Crumblehead has had on gold for like quite a while, it is honestly excessive, and if those vills were harvesting from another resource like food or wood, it would make a big difference. Now granted, you do want to stockpile a bit of gold if you're going for a fast castle age strategy like I do almost all the time, or if you're like Pete here and you're going for some sort of archer rush, obviously, because he's got, you know, two archer ranges, he's stockpiling a lot of gold. He needs that gold, he's spending that gold. Eagle has 4 villagers on gold, and he has an archer range, so he's at least considering going for some sort of archers or a fast castle age. But if you're going for a fast castle age, guys, it'll like a straight into fast castle age, you know. That means that the moment that you hit the feudal age, you're going to try and click up to the castle age by building your 2 feudal age buildings and just immediately advancing. You're only going to need 2 villagers on gold throughout the Dark Age and the feudal age. You'll never need 3. And having that 1 extra villager assigned on something else can make a big difference. So Crumblehead definitely does not need all these villagers on gold unless he plans on spending them. Unless he plans on spending it like Pete, because Pete is actually spending it. Like here comes the archers into Camp Keck's base, and he's completely unprepared. See, he also has 3 villagers on gold. If you're going for fast castle age, you only need 2 guys. You don't need 3. If you put your mining camp down around like 7-8 minutes, because you really only need to get up to that 200 gold mark, and then you're good. Now, Camp Kex is getting rushed here by archers, so he's making a very, very smart choice here, and he's putting down a watchtower. This is exactly what you want to do, guys. When you're getting rushed by someone and you don't have anything to defend them, you need to zone them off your resources. Notice how Pete, you know, he's focusing on the external resources here. Camp Kex has a lumber camp, and this lumber camp is far away from his town center. And these early game units, you know, they cannot handle the town center fire. Town centers fire several sets of just devastating arrows, and they're just going to melt your troops, and you can't afford to replace them. So putting down a watchtower here is great, and this watchtower is in a very good location because not only does it protect this wood line, but it also protects this stone and gold. And when these archers come over here, he just puts his villagers inside this watchtower, and you're good to go. This rush is basically foiled. So guys, if you get flushed, this is what you need to do. This is absolutely what you need to do. And yeah, I want to see everybody can keep their villager production rolling here. I don't want to see anyone fall behind. Looks like Border Dude Man might be... Actually, no, I guess not Border Dude Man. Yeah, no, I guess Amazon is probably a little behind in vills. And maybe Crumblehead is a few behind in vills. Not by a large margin, but I want to see them continue this villager production. And right now, you know, like Crumblehead, he's got 4 villagers on gold. He doesn't have a single archer built. He doesn't have his 2 feudal age buildings, so he's not going for a quick castle age either. So, you know, all these vills on gold right now, they're just stockpiling it, are completely useless. He doesn't need to stockpile on gold. What you want to do is your economy is a dynamic function, guys. Your economy, it can be adjusted to meet your needs. So you can adjust it over time. You don't need to like dedicate yourself to planning so much in advance unless you're going for some really weird like fast imperial age strategy. There's always exceptions, guys. Always exceptions. Not always a rule, but you don't need to stockpile on gold too early unless you plan on using it. And Camp Kex, you know, the thing is that he's really got to invest in a barracks right now if he wants to survive. He's going to need to invest in some form of military. It looks like he's getting rushed by 2 players right now, so he really should get backup from his teammates. He should ask Crumblehead to send in what he has. But yeah, see, as we can tell, this watchtower, you know, very, very strong with the zoning, guys. It makes a very, very big difference. But he's going to need help. He's going to need help from Crumblehead very, very soon. Alright, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about upgrades for a second here, because this is really, really important. What you want to do is you want to prioritize your... Don't forget your blacksmith upgrades. That's rule number 1. Blacksmith upgrades, they're life. They're everything. Like a Border Dude Man, he's got fletching. This is what you want. With the ranged units, you want to prioritize the upgrades to your range and attack, like fletching, bodkin arrow, and bracer. Reason being is if you get the first hit off, because you outrange your opponent, well, that's a win-win. Because if you get the first hit off, that means you'll probably get an entire additional hit, and you'll just win the fight. Like that, it makes so much of a difference. Now, if you're a melee unit, you want to prioritize the ones that add defense. The reason being is that you're gonna, you know, melee units, they never get the first hit off. They're never going to get the first hit off. But having extra armor, meaning that you take less damage from every single attack, if that extra armor allows you to live one more hit and get one extra hit off, that's huge. That's much better than having one extra attack. I do like that Camp Kex is putting down a town center here, again, to secure this wood line and these 2 minerals. He's going to have to get it up. He should really just pull off a ton of villagers and get it up. This is a very, very high priority that he holds the line here. I do... See, the thing is, he's being extremely greedy, you know? Like, he's trying to boom off this, but he can't. In this situation, you can't. Booming is a very, very nice thing to do, you know, where you try and get up multiple town centers and get your eco as strong as possible, as fast as possible. And yeah, look how this watchtower is doing work, guys. A watchtower just wins games. If you're getting rushed, don't panic. Watchtower. Watchtower, 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 okay? But he's not in a situation in which it's safe to boom anymore. Well, I guess now it is, because he just killed all those archers with that watchtower, but he's going to have to invest in a barracks. You can tell his opponents are really, really going to continue doing this type of thing, and it's not the kind of thing that his town centers can keep protecting him from. But really, really good defense here from Camp Kex. But he's going to want to plop out that barracks, as he's done now, and perhaps put out another military building. I do like also that this barracks is functioning as a makeshift ghetto wall off here between this gold mine, these trees, this barracks, and this trees over here. This is actually a wall off, and now enemy archers cannot actually pass through this area. This is perfect. I would really like to see an archer range for him, though. This would be pretty big. And yeah, Crumblehead here, prioritizing the range upgrades on his skirmishers. Absolutely perfect. This is what we want to see. He might want to move his skirmishers a little forward, though, so that he can engage the enemy. But yeah, so far so good. Looks like a good match here. As we can tell, you know, Amazon made some short work of Border Dude Man's rush. Reason being is watchtowers. Now here's the thing to note, is that watchtowers do have a minimum range, right? They cannot attack units directly below them. Border Dude Man has wisely recognized this, and he has archers directly underneath this watchtower, exploiting this minimum wage and trapping those vills. However, Border Dude Man has also trapped himself. Here comes the smart mangonel from Amazon, and Border Dude Man cannot run, because if he runs, he's going to be shot by this watchtower and immediately die. He has to stay here and die to this mangonel, so really good play here from Amazon, and you know, watchtowers are a blessing and a curse. If you trap yourself underneath them to trap the enemy vills inside, you have also trapped your army as well, unless you can blow up that watchtower, so... Ideally, if you can back up your watchtower with another watchtower like this, you know, ideally they should be a little closer. But if you have 2 watchtowers that are in range of each other, they can cover each other's minimum range. And then you'll have a really strong defensive perimeter. A very, very strong defensive perimeter. If you have 2 watchtowers, like spaced apart by like 2 or 3 tiles, you know, like one over here for this watchtower, Amazon would be completely untouchable on that front. But he is in the Castle Age, so he's fine because he's got mangonels. And guys, when you see that your opponent has archers, crossbowmen or whatever, ranged units, and you're in the Castle Age, let's see some mangonels coming out here. Age of Empires 2, guys, it's a game of counters. Game of counters, guys. Brace yourself, the counter units are coming. So, you see ranged units? Mangonels should be the first thought. You deal with all these pesky clumped up elite skirmishers right here. Skirmishers are very, very weak to mangonels. All ranged units are. But yeah, good stuff so far. I see that people are definitely keeping up with their villager production. This looks like this will actually be quite a close match. Camp Kex looks like he's a little bit behind, but he has been rushed quite a bit. Thankfully, though, he is getting out of Siege Workshop, acknowledging that he cannot play on the... he cannot play solely economy-based the entire game, but he's going to need to keep his villager production rolling. He looks like he's falling a little bit behind. Eagle definitely has quite a strong eco. Here's another thing that I like, guys, and that you should really try, is the Eagle over here he's built 2 archer ranges next to his ally Amazon. And this is really helpful. Why? Because units are pretty slow. You don't want to have to walk them across the entire map to reinforce your teammate. And now Eagle can actually protect Amazon and start producing troops to defend Amazon if Amazon ever gets attacked, without having to walk his army from his base over there. Because that time can make all the difference, guys. It can make a huge, huge difference. So you definitely want to fortify your allies' bases with military units. And Camp Kex recognizes that his eco is definitely behind some of his opponents, so he's putting down another TC to try and catch up here. This is good, but he's going to need to invest in the military, and this is smart. He also sees this mangonel here from Eagle, and he's recognized that this area is within range of this mangonel. It's no longer safe to harvest from. He's going to take all these villagers over here, and he's going to go move them to a safer location to chop. What I'd really like to see is I'd like to see Border Dude Man and, you know, maybe perhaps Crumblehead just putting some military buildings closer to the rest of his teammates. That way he can reinforce them quicker whenever need be. Looks like Crumblehead has actually caught this army of Pete's a little out of position here. Skirmishers do beat crossbowmen, however, Pete is on an elevation advantage. And remember that in Age of Empires 2, guys, your units that are on a higher elevation do actually deal more damage and take less, so Pete will be able to make short work of Crumblehead's army. Also, Crumblehead is lacking a lot of upgrades. Crumblehead only has fletching, whereas Pete actually has the bodkin arrow and padded archer armor as well. Pete was actually some pretty good crossbowmen in micro, which is impressive with the slag. But he should definitely finish that army and that wolf. Kill all those remaining dudes. But yeah, Crumblehead's really got to get his upgrades rolling if he wants to remain competitive here. He should get that bodkin arrow, I think, right off the bats. And here's what it's like, is Crumblehead is tagging on a lot of unit production facilities, and this is a mistake I think a lot of players do make, is that they don't make enough unit production facilities, and then they just fall behind their opponent. You know, they're just floating so many resources, and they cannot defend against their opponent because their opponent is just outproducing them. And you're going to need a lot of military buildings, definitely, if you want to produce fast enough. And you know, Pete again is focusing these external villagers. That's what you want to do with the early combat guys. You're not going to be able to kill anybody in the early game, so you want to, because you know you can't take on their town centers. Town centers are so strong until you have at least some battering rams or mangonels. And it looks like Crumblehead has boxed Pete in. See, the nice thing is that Pete has put himself in this little choke point area right here, so that it makes it harder for his guys to be surrounded, and they're more clumped up. And when you're fighting against melee units, when you're ranged units, when you're using ranged units and you're fighting against melee units, you want to try and back yourself into a corner usually. That way, the melee units like these knights cannot get the surround, and only a couple of them are allowed to attack at a time. However, when you clump yourself up into a corner like this, if Crumblehead did have a mangonel, you know, that would have been easy, sneezy, lemon peasy. That battle would have been over. These crossbowmen should definitely be killed, though, by Crumblehead. And what I do like is that Crumblehead is both building counter units and playing to his civilization string. This is what you want to do, guys. Not only is he building skirmishers because he knows the enemy team has a strange fetish for archer units, but he's also building knights because knights are good with Franks. So, and because he has skirmishers backed up with knights, pretty nice combo there. He's able to make sure these knights get they're less susceptible to being kited, you know, by enemy crossbowmen because skirmishers are there to cover it. But yeah, I love the choice of skirmishers here as well from Camp Kex, guys. Military units should be chosen based on what your opponent is building. You gotta react accordingly. Aoe2 is a game of counters. And you want to vary your army comp. You can't just make just one unit all game, otherwise you're gonna be screwed. In the early game, it's okay to make just one type of unit. You know, like it's okay to just mass knights in the early game, but as the game goes on, you cannot afford to do that at all. It'll make your army way too easy to counter. Like, you build like a 100 skirmishers, your opponent just needs like, what, like 10 onagers and you're dead. And that entire army is just vanquished instantly. Or like 40 knights, like it's just not efficient, population-wise, you know? Yeah, I do like that, yeah, Border Dude Man here has reinforced Crumblehead's base a little bit. This is good. This looks like a really close match here. I think my prime concern here is that Camp Kex is in big trouble. It looks like he might have had some town center idle time or something like that, but he's getting pressured heavily by everybody, and he's going to need so much backup. And it looks like Eagle's... I was going to say Eagle has like the strongest eco in the game, but no, he just has the strongest military right now, I guess. But yeah, Camp Kex is just, I guess, a little bit behind on his eco department. I guess so is Amazon. So yeah, if you're falling behind in score, make sure that your villager production is kept up with. I want to make sure that everybody in this game, you know, like, people are getting pressured, of course, so it can take time. It can take time, but you want to try and get to that goal of 100 plus villagers as fast as you can. So I want to make sure that everybody in this game, by the end of it, whether you win or lose, you have at least 100 villages. Otherwise, you know, you're gonna have some questionable results. Yeah, good battles going on over here so far. Really like to see that their teammates are backing up Camp Kex. This is actually a pretty good match, honestly. These guys aren't. These guys are actually reasonably experienced. I mean, they're not. You know, they're obviously, you know, still rookie players, but these guys actually understand the game pretty well, which is pretty good. I'm very, very glad to see this. We've got nobody here walking around with an army of 100 militia at 30 minutes in. You know, that's very, very good. Or, and by 100 militia, I mean like 2. So yeah, Mangonel is a very, very smart choice here from Pete. I mean, look at this. You see tons of skirms, right? Tons and tons of skirms. So here's why I like the skirmishers and knights thing from Crumblehead. He's thinking ahead, right? You know, since everybody in this game is a fetish for skirmishers and crossbowmen, you know, because they're nice units. They're nice and cheap, and easy to mass them up. Knights are nice because knights counter their, you know, like skirmishers and crossmen are really weak to mangonels, and knights are really strong against mangonels. So there you go. One weakness is covered there, and that's what your ideal army composition should be, is they should cover the weaknesses of your other units. If you want to make skirmishers, that's A-okay, but you can't make only skirmishers because the enemy team will just be so easily able to counter that, so you want to cover that. What are skirmishers weak to? They're weak to mangonels, so make some knights. But that army comp isn't perfect, of course, because the enemy team could just simply mass knights of their own, and knights are neutral versus knights, obviously, the same unit, and then knights counter skirmishers, so yeah, it's not a perfect army comp. Something that's closer to perfect would be like hand cannoneers and knights, because hand cannoneers are really strong against halberdiers, you know, those pikemen type things, and other melee units, and then knights are really good against things that the hand cannoneers are weak to, like mangonels and arbalists. So there you go. That basically covers that, and then you'll need something for buildings, so like bombard cannons tacked onto that. That's a really strong army comp, but it's really expensive though. That's the thing. There's also costs to factor into. So, you know, while a knight will beat, you know, like 3 pikemen before it dies, you know, they'll be able to beat quite a few of those. Knights beat pikemen in a one-on-one fight, but pikemen are a counter unit because pikemen are more cost efficient, you know, against knights. They do a lot of bonus damage against knights. And they don't really cost anything, but knights cost so much gold, and it's, you know, you gotta conserve gold. I don't know people's civs. Here's the civilizations. Now, I do want to make sure, though, that Crumblehead doesn't forget the rest of his blacksmith upgrades, because it's been a while, and I want to make sure, you know, that he's got those things on lockdown. I see some pretty strong economies from people here. This is good. I see you've all, learned from watching my stuff that Farming Simulator is the way to go. I wonder why Eagle's score is so high. I don't know if he has an insanely big eco. I guess he kind of does. He doesn't have nearly as many farmers as other people because he's, you know, he doesn't need as much food because he's not making food type units. You know, units that cost food, but yeah, people are playing Farming Simulator. I love this. I mean, look at Amazon's town centers. I dig this. Another thing to keep in mind, guys, is you notice that Amazon here, he has built another lumber camp, because he doesn't want his villagers to have to walk too far from the wood line to his lumber camp to go drop it off. It's all about being efficient. Although I would like to see Amazon prioritize those defensive upgrades for his melee units and not those attack damage ones. It's just much more important, guys. Forging is not going to... An army of knights that have forging versus, you know, like an army of, you know, crossbowmen. You know, the crossbowmen are probably going to win unless you've got some defense upgrades, and like it looks like Amazon's getting the defense upgrades now. But yeah, forging is lower on the priority list. Definitely lower on the priority list. Does anyone in the Twitch chat have any questions, I guess, about Age of Empires 2, game theory, anything related at all to the game, a concept you don't understand, you know, how to counter a certain unit, certain army composition? If anyone has any questions, ask me anything specific. Now's the time. Because I'm not actually playing this match, I'm just spectating, so I can answer all of your questions now. Normally when I'm actually playing, it's obviously harder to read the chat and play at the same time, but I can definitely do that now. Cav archers are not necessarily better than knights with the Huns. Not necessarily. Again, it just depends on what units your opponent is making, what the situation calls for, sir. It is an awesome monk strategy next game. See, here's the problem, Schlatop, is I would like to do that, but that's very risky, and most of the players that I play against will be totally prepared for that. I would have to be banking on playing against people who are not particularly great, I guess, if I wanted to go for that, and if it went wrong, it would be a very boring match for you guys. It'd be Resonance fails at monk rushing, so... Perhaps at some point, if I can somehow pull that off, but... Mass monks is very risky. How do you advance the feudal age? Very tough question. How do you counter Mangudai? AFK Raptor asking actually a very tough question. Here's the reason that they got nerfed in the Forgotten. It's very hard to counter Mangudai. There are some units in this game, like Mangudai and Longbowmen, that come to mind, that you could make, I guess, Cataphracts as well. You can basically make an army composed of just those and get some serious results. But remember how I said you can't make just one of one unit? I really do mean it, because Mass Mangudai, you still lose to buildings. You still cannot deal with buildings. Cataphracts as well, Longbowmen as well. You're going to at least need siege units, but no, Mangudai are pretty ridiculous. is let's first look at the counters to cavalry archers, right? Because Mangudai are still cavalry archers. You got pikemen, but that's not a good thing, because cavalry archers can just kite those, so they both counter each other, but pikemen are not a surefire counter, they're more like a check. And then we've got mangonels. Mangonels are good against cavalry archers, but again, cavalry archers can outmaneuver them, they can kite them. But mangonels are still a really good option, especially if you fight the cavalry archers in a choke point. So mangonels are a good option. We've got a counter there, right? We've got knights, light cavalry. Those are both good options. And camels. They can all keep up with these cavalry archers and deal some heavy damage. And yeah, so those are all the cavalry units, good options. Mangonels, good options. Pikemen, subpar, but a thought. Elite skirmishers are a good option. Elite skirmishers outrange the cavalry archers and are extremely much more cost efficient in that battle. So that's definitely a good thing to do. But so yeah, we look at those things, right? And we look at Mangudai. What do Mangudai take out of the equation? Mangudai are unique, like many unique units are just like regular units, except they add some sort of twist. Like cataphracts are a knight, basically, a heavy cavalry unit that actually has an attack bonus versus infantry. So Mangudai have an attack bonus versus siege weapons, right? So that just takes out all the siege weapons out of the equation. Unfortunately, what that does is that it turns onagers, which were a good option previously, a fantastic option previously, and turns them into a check. It turns them into pikemen. They're no longer counter, they're now a check. Because now, mangonels get killed just as hard as they kill the Mangudai. So, what does that leave you with? It leaves you basically with heavy cavalry, but again, you know, heavy cavalry can get kited, but yeah, basically your best option is like heavy cavalry and elite skirmishers. But I would still back them up with mangonels anyway. Because if your opponent is trying to kite your melee units, or he's actually trying to stop to fight you, your onagers will be able to clear him out, but you're going to need quite a few of them. Mangudai are ridiculously hard to deal with, but they're extremely expensive, and they take a really long time to get to. They're really only a problem, I guess, in like Black Forest and late game scenarios, but you can still deal with them with mangonels. But that's why in the Forgotten they made it so the attack bonus is limited only to rams, so that mangonels are still a much better check. Mangudai are definitely really scary, so Mongol, but they're only created from the castle as well, so they're a lot harder to mass. You should be able to outproduce the Mongol player in that regard as well. Because, you know, you can only build so many castles, whereas it's much easier to spam the counter units to Mangudai. Just try to not let him get critical mass, basically. Let's see, any other questions? Yeah, Mamluks hard counter Mangudai. Mamluks hard counter cavalry archers, actually. Mangudai are great, but I mean, Mamluks are great, but I try not to list unique units too much because, you know, you might not be able to have access to those. Any other interesting questions? How many skill points do you need to be considered an average player? Well, your rating isn't necessarily an accurate reflection of your skill. I use them as sort of a ballpark measure, Alex, so if you're below 1650, the inexperienced player matches are probably good for you. If you're higher than 1650, you can join the experienced ones, but you know, their ballpark figure, some players have relatively low ratings because of disconnects out of syncs, so that doesn't always accurately reflect that. What I like to see is that Eagle is rating the economy really strong, these Eagle warriors. Eagle is playing as the Mayans, I love this. And yeah, he's just focusing on these external villagers. Look at all these vulnerable, juicy villagers over here, and these are just sitting ducks. Wow, Crumblehead really needs his blacksmith upgrades, though, my goodness. Let me check on Crumblehead. Crumblehead, don't forget those blacksmith upgrades. It's pretty key, definitely. Yeah, Eagle Warrior rating is going to be strong. See, oh, okay, this is a great castle placement from Campkex. Like, when I play... Oh, another great castle placement. When you know, like, you don't want to get raided by these Eagle Warriors, right? So when I play, I like to always put my castles in, like, a defensive position, you know, to protect my farmers. Otherwise, you know, Eagle can just send in Eagle Warriors, force this guy to ring the town bell, garrison all these villagers inside, and all those villagers that are garrisoned inside, they're basically considered idle. And that's how he can destroy Campkex economy. However, this guy actually has a castle right here to protect all of his farmers, so this is good. This means that he can protect his eco without having to pull his troops back. This is good. Okay, Crumblehead's got the max defense upgrades on his cavaliers, but he's missing all the upgrades on his infantry and skirmishers, except for fletching. Yeah, good defense here. Definitely very good defense here. I like that his teammates are also heavily reinforcing him. This is good teamwork. It's all about map awareness, guys. You gotta see what your team needs, you know, and be there to back them up. Ooh, I like this. This is very, very devious. Yeah, Amazon, man, he's really got to invest in his defense upgrades, you know, because his infantry have no defense upgrades at all, and he's going for foraging. Big mistake, big mistake. Res Paladins versus Cataphracts, which is better? Paladins beat, well, okay, it's kind of complicated, Delta, because Cataphracts actually cleave. They do AoE damage when they attack with Logistica. So, it depends. If there's enough Cataphracts, the Cataphracts will win that fight. The best way to deal with Cataphracts, honestly, are like hand cannoneers, and like arbalists, and like Mamluks. Really ranged units, because Cataphracts have crappy pierce armor. If I was playing random civ for a newbie player, I'd recommend I guess being more familiar with this with a specific civilization first. But randoming, yeah, is a good idea to learn the game, definitely. But I'd recommend learning one civ first, at least. There's still wall hop in the HD edition. Yes, I believe you can. Yes. But yeah, Cataphracts are an extremely expensive unit. A lot of the unique units are pretty ridiculous, but that's the point, guys. Like Mamluks, they're camels, but they're ranged now, thus removing all the problems of, you know, melee units screwing them over. But the thing with unique units is not only do most of them cost like approximately $7 billion per unit, but you can only produce them extremely slowly because they can only be produced by castles, and you can really only have 4 castles maximum, assuming you've mined all of your stone. And then after they get to buy a ton of it, castles take decades to make. It's inefficient. And wow, this match actually looks like it might be turned around here. Definitely Team 2. This team was really on the back foot for quite a while, but looks like they're making a comeback. They're making a comeback. Crumblehead should really delete this castle though, so he doesn't lose it, because then he's going to lose all that stone. But yeah, really good rating here from Eagle. Now here's the thing, you know, Eagle recognizes that his teammates are losing on both sides right now. He needs to make a play. He needs to make it happen. He needs to turn the momentum back. So what's he doing? He's raiding, and this is the smart decision. He's going to try and cripple people's economies. However, he's got some idle guys. He really needs to actually do some defense. Yeah, he can do some raiding, yes, but he shouldn't commit everything to raiding. He's going to actually have to heavily commit to defending his teammates, definitely. Because Amazon is not able to defend against these Mangudai. It looks like Amazon's a little confused. He doesn't know what units he should make against these Mangudai. Skirmishers are not the answers, guys. Skirmishers do not deal, like, any damage to these Mangudai. I mean, these Mamluks, sorry. What he's going to want to do is he's going to want to make, like, our crossbowmen. Because these guys have no pierce armor, crossbowmen is a decent option. He might not have any gold at all, but I'd like to see crossbowmen. He can throw in some pikes if he wants, but what he's really going to need is he's going to need some backup. He's going to need these Eagle Warriors to get up in here and deal with these mass monks, especially. These monks are constantly healing these Mamluks and being just a real nuisance. Also, Border Man Dude should not forget that Mamluks are considered like camels, so they do benefit from bloodlines at the stable as well as husbandry. Get a little bit of extra HP on there. Rez, do you stream every day? I do not, Alex. I've got the schedule right below the live stream. Samurai beat Jaguar Warriors higher attack speed. Samurai have an insanely fast attack speed. Easy civs for inexperienced players? I'd say the... I think the Byzantines are fairly... I mean, there's just civs... I mean, most civs are relatively... Okay, like, when I say that a civ is a good civ for an experienced player to start the game off with, I don't mean that it takes no skill to win with that civ. I just mean that, like, a low skill floor, still high skill ceiling. You know, but, no, like, Byzantines are a good civ to start because all their trash units cost, like, nothing, which is nice. They're a lot more forgiving in that regard. They're a lot harder to rush because their buildings are tankier. They get free town watch. So they're really, really nice in that regard, and they get everything. They get, like, basically everything unit-wise, so that's nice. I think Byzantines are a good place to start. Definitely, yeah. And they're definitely one of my favorite civilizations because they're very, very adaptable. So here's the problem: is these skirmishers just don't really do anything here. I'm assuming it's just because Amazon doesn't have any money. And these cavaliers as well are just, well, food for the monks, as well as food for the Mamluks, so... Oh, hey, this guy's the Franks? Oh, he should make hand cannoneers, actually, if he can afford to. But again, what he really mostly needs is backup from his teammates. His teammates should really stop, because Pete over here isn't dead. This is like a sort of pseudo-even fight right now. However, the struggle right now in Amazon's base is very, very real. Eagle needs to pull the fuck back and defend this. And defend this guy and get him back on track. Now, another thing, though, is that Amazon's losing a lot of vills, right? His eco is taking some damage, so what he's going to want to do, in addition to his like crossbows and hand cannoneers, is he's going to need to replace those lost villagers and try and back up his eco and pray that Eagle actually sends some stuff. Because I think that they've got this situation, you know, like this is a relatively even fight, but Amazon's going to need some serious, serious help. This is a losing battle over here. Amazon cannot handle this. The problem is that Amazon also happens to be the Franks, and this guy happens to be the Saracens, and some civs do kind of, like, not match up versus each other very well. This isn't the worst matchup in the game, because, you know, he does get hand cannoneers at least, but this is really bad. I'd say the worst matchup in the game, the worst civ-on-civ matchup, is Mayans versus the Goths. The Mayans get decimated by the Goths. I don't think that the Mayans really have much of anything. Because the Mayans cannot stop the Huskarls. The Mayans don't get champions, they only get two-handed swordsmen, and their Eagle Warriors are not, like, good enough against these Huskarls and the mass infantry. There's really... The best options the Mayans have are, like, Eagle Warriors and Heavy Scorpions, but that's not particularly great, because, again, the Goths have gunpowder as well, they can bombard cannon, all those things down, and it's just awful, so... Now, some civ matchups just aren't conducive to each other, and, you know, in this case, the Saracens... pretty damn good against the Franks. The Franks really love to make knights. They like to make infantry. Their archers aren't good, but the only option that you have against Mamluks really are ranged units, like your archers and hand cannoneers. So he's kind of damned if he does, damned if he don't. And it's good to see though the Eagle is backing him up, because yeah, Aoe2 does have a little bit of that Pokemon style thing to it, guys. You know, where there's like counters and like type advantages and whatnot. You can consider Amazon to be like Squirtle and Border Dude Man to be Bulbasaur. So Eagle's got to come in here and he's got to compensate for his teammates, you know, quote-unquote type disadvantage, you know. And it's good to see him backing up his teammates right here now. So getting a bit of a lag spike, hopefully no one DCs, but this actually looks like a really good close match. It would be a shame if someone were to go out of sync here. Ah, he does drop. Ah, it's a shame. That's a darn shame. Well, maybe he'll reconnect in just the last second, but really, really good. Yeah, Goths versus the Britons are considered to be one of the worst civ matchups, just as like a general sort of stereotype in the game, but that's not true. The Britons can actually handle that matchup. The Britons get champions. The reason the Mayans struggle so much is that the Mayans do not actually get they only get two-handed swordsmen, which is really bad. That's really unfortunate. I haven't talked about it too much, but, you know, good choices of units. I like to see the Franks, you know, playing to their strengths with the hand cannoneers and whatnot. But no, unfortunately, this match, I think, is kind of over now. Just don't have to keep playing. Well, now that I'm done answering that question, does anyone have anything else, I guess, that they want to ask me, as this match is about to come to a close? I do believe Red's about to die here, and then it's basically just about to be game. How fast should I start working on trade in team games? Very good question, AFK Raptor. I like this question. The answer is usually in the Imperial Age. there's really no time that you'd ever want to start investing in your trade line before the Imperial Age. I know a lot of players try to do that. Waste of gold, frankly. You need that gold for other things in the Castle Age. If you're attacking people, you need it for military units. And, not only that, but you have all your gold mines in the Castle Age. As the game drags on, there's going to be no more gold in the map. You're going to need trade in a team game, so I'd say start working on it around like 10 minutes after you've advanced the Imperial Age. It should be definitely on your to-do list in the Imperial Age, but don't work on it before then. Yeah, I'm just going to resign in just a minute. And if they want to keep playing it out, that's fine. It's okay, Border Dude, man. That was a really good game. You were playing extremely well, honestly. It's unfortunate that that match happened to turn out that way. But this is a really, really close game. I don't know how it would have turned out, honestly, if you were still in here. You guys may have won. I don't know. When do you suggest getting Wheelbarrow? When you have about 30 villagers is when I think you should get Wheelbarrow. When you have 30 villagers, around 30-ish villagers. I mean, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. But when you have 30 villagers and you have the money to be able to research it, yeah. I mean, it could be anywhere in the 30 to 40 range, but, you know, if you don't have money, you don't have money. Alright, well, I think it's basically the game. You guys keep playing, but I won't keep watching. Alright, well, GG, well played, everybody, in this match. It's a shame that Border Dude Man, his power went out, but it happens, These things are beyond your control. And it was a very, very good game. I hope you all found this definitely informative in some way or another. Let's go check out the achievements. Because the whole point of this series, guys, is to help you guys feel a little more comfortable with Age of Empires 2 in general. So people with the strong ecos, this is what I like to see, guys. Everybody here with a strong eco, 100 plus villagers. Perfectly done, guys. Well played, well played. People played this match pretty well, honestly. Honestly, pretty well. And, you know, it all just boils down to this idea, guys, is you need a strong eco before you get a strong military. That's basically it. But I've said enough about that. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you both found it both entertaining and informative. If you did, please do leave me a like rating, as well as check out the rest of the stuff on my YouTube channel. I also have a Facebook page, Twitter page, and a Twitch TV page. I do live stream regularly, of course. And hey, if you want to get in on these matches, you want to play with or against me, or have me give you live advice like I did with these guys, watching my live stream is the best way to do that, so do make sure to follow me on Twitch so that you don't miss any of those live streams. Alright, thank you so much for watching, guys. As always, I really do appreciate the support, more than you know. And we will be back in just a few minutes with the next match of the live stream, so stay tuned, stay tuned.